INFJs make up less than 2% of the population. But it's not just rarity that sets them apart. It's their contradiction, their quiet intensity, their emotional precision, their intuitive insight, and the timeless weight of their presence. They don't stand above every other type because they are louder, smarter, or more successful. They stand apart because they live with a depth and purpose that few can match. INFJs are emotional strategists. They are the paradox of softness and strength. Beneath their calm exterior lies a mind that never stops observing, absorbing, and decoding the patterns in people, words, and energy. Their introversion is not a retreat from the world, but a space of deep processing. They don't just listen to what you say, they feel what you meant. They don't just look at situations, they sense what's beneath them. And they don't just walk through life, they see it, feel it, and often carry it in ways others cannot. If you're an INFJ, ensure to check out our INFJ Playbook Toolkit. The link is in the description of this video. While other types may master logic, systems, or charisma, the INFJ masters meaning. They are architects of purpose. When they enter a space, they are already measuring its emotional frequency. When they speak, their words are often so considered, so loaded with intentionality, that it leaves people wondering how someone could articulate things they hadn't yet found language for. This is the INFJ's gift, to give shape to the unseen, voice to the unspoken, and compassion to the broken. They don't just empathize, they merge with the experience of others, not out of sympathy, but because their emotional range allows them to hold multiple realities at once. INFJs value authenticity. Shallow interactions, superficial praise, performative relationships, none of this satisfies them. INFJs crave resonance. They need to connect on a soul level. They are the ones who stay awake at night, wondering if they made someone feel unseen. They are the ones who will replay conversations, not because they're insecure, but because they care so deeply about how they affect the world around them. Their empathy isn't passive, it's active, intuitive, and constantly shaping their decisions, their energy, and their emotional boundaries. Despite their emotional depth, INFJs are not ruled by emotion. They are judging types, structured, focused, and goal-driven. This is what makes them so uniquely powerful. They're not just visionaries, they're doers. They don't just dream, they plan. They don't just feel, they act. But what makes their action different is the motive behind it. INFJs don't chase power, fame, or control. They move with quiet conviction, often behind the scenes, changing lives without fanfare, rewriting narratives without needing the credit. One of the most misunderstood aspects of the INFJ is their ability to be both extremely open and deeply private. To some, they appear emotionally accessible, warm, nurturing, deeply engaged. But just when you think you've gotten close, they pull back. This isn't manipulation or moodiness, it's survival. INFJs feel everything. Their emotional skin is thin. If they don't retreat, they'll drown. And so, they protect their inner world fiercely. They let you see the light, but not always the fire. INFJs often struggle with the burden of being too much for the world and not enough for themselves. They know they see more, but they're rarely seen in return. They know they love deeper, but they are often left waiting for someone who can meet them there. And yet, they continue to give, to guide, to pour, because to deny that part of themselves would be to betray their nature. What truly sets INFJs apart is not just what they feel or what they know, it's what they choose to do with that knowing. They often become the unseen mentors, the quiet revolutionaries, the ones who challenge broken systems not through noise, but through integrity. They are not attention seekers. They are soul seekers, and they are never truly satisfied until their life feels in alignment with a mission, one that often includes healing, rebuilding, and helping others find their way back to themselves. Even in a world that does not always honor their softness, INFJs remain committed to their depth. They continue to show up for others, even when they are tired. They continue to speak the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. They continue to love, not for validation, but because they can't not love. It is woven into their DNA. Their power lies in paradox. The INFJ embodies opposites not as contradictions, but as coexistence. They are deeply feeling, yet remarkably rational. They are emotional, yet can be stunningly composed. They can counsel you with warmth, while carrying their own grief in silence. They're human mirrors, absorbing the pain of others while reflecting back hope. This is the kind of power that cannot be faked. It cannot be taught. It is felt. It's in their eyes when they look at you like they've seen something sacred. It's in their voice when they speak the truth you haven't yet admitted to yourself. It's in their absence when you realize the room feels colder because their spirit isn't anchoring it anymore. The path of the INFJ is not an easy one. Their intuition is a double-edged sword, a gift and a burden. They often know the truth before they are ready to accept it. They see red flags in others long before anyone else does. They can predict the trajectory of a situation and feel its emotional consequences before it even unfolds. And yet, they are not cynical. They remain idealistic, even when life has given them every reason not to be. They continue to believe in redemption, in growth, in love. Not because they've never been hurt, but because they have, and still chose to stay open. INFJs remind us that presence matters more than power. That depth is more valuable than noise. That truth, no matter how soft-spoken, always carries weight. In a world obsessed with chasing everything, the INFJ teaches us the art of stillness, of purpose, of walking away from what doesn't resonate, even when it's popular, of choosing soul over spotlight. In a world obsessed with productivity, speed, and surface-level performance, the INFJ stands as a radical reminder of something far more powerful: presence. They are not here to rush through life, chasing applause. They are here to feel it, to transform it, to elevate it through the quiet force of authenticity. Their life is not a race. It's a sacred unfolding, a deepening. And that is precisely why they stand above. They have an intuitive grasp of human complexity. When most people see someone's behavior, the INFJ sees the story behind it, the wound, the fear, the unmet need. It's not that they excuse bad behavior, but they understand where it comes from. This kind of insight gives them the power to disarm conflict, soften harshness, and speak to the parts of people that are rarely acknowledged. They don't engage with masks. They speak to the soul beneath. That's why a single conversation with an INFJ can feel like therapy. They don't just listen, they hold space. They don't just respond, they reflect. And in that reflection, people often see themselves clearly for the very first time. INFJs live in alignment with their deepest truths, even when it costs them connection, comfort, or approval. INFJs will walk away from relationships, careers, and environments that are misaligned with their values. They do not betray themselves for belonging. Instead, they commit to a life that feels right, even if it's not easy. That's a rare kind of integrity, and it's why people trust them, even when they don't fully understand them. You'll often find INFJs drawn to purpose-driven work, counseling, writing, art, activism, teaching, healing. Not because these paths make them look good, but because their heart demands it. They are not content with simply existing. They want impact, to help others feel less alone, to create meaning where there was once confusion. And they do it in a way that is never performative. Their motivation is rooted in something pure, something spiritual. To them, helping others is not a task, it's a calling. INFJs also experience the world in symbols, in synchronicities, in spiritual nudges and subtle meanings. They might not always be religious, but they are often profoundly spiritual. They look for lessons in heartbreak. They search for beauty in brokenness. They find guidance in silence. Where others see coincidence, they see divine timing. Where others see failure, they see initiation. This spiritual sensitivity is part of their magic. It allows them to walk through dark seasons with grace, to find purpose in pain, to turn wounds into wisdom. Even their silence is powerful. When an INFJ chooses not to speak, it's not because they have nothing to say. It's because they are discerning. Every word is measured. Every truth is weighed. They value honesty, but not at the expense of compassion. They know when to speak, and when their silence is more sacred. That's the kind of wisdom that doesn't come from books. It comes from living fully, feeling deeply, and learning through both heartbreak and healing. And maybe this is why people are so drawn to INFJs. Not because they're easy to understand, but because they make you feel understood. They won't always share their own story, but they'll hold yours with reverence. They might not talk much about themselves, but you'll walk away from them feeling seen. And in a world where most people are just waiting for their turn to speak, that kind of presence is unforgettable. The INFJ presence brings a different kind of power. One that doesn't impose, but inspires. One that doesn't control, but calls people inward. An INFJ can make you rethink everything without saying a single harsh word. They don't manipulate. They mirror. And through that reflection, people often confront parts of themselves they've never dared to explore. That's the paradox of the INFJ. They are often misunderstood by many, yet deeply remembered by all who truly encounter them. Many INFJs are drawn to writing, not simply for self-expression, but because language is their tool for liberation. They know how to wrap truth in words that feel like balm. They know how to pierce through confusion with clarity, without ever raising their voice. And in a world drowning in noise, this kind of gentle authority stands above all else. INFJs are not perfect. They doubt themselves more often than they admit. They carry guilt for not being able to help everyone. They wrestle with boundaries, giving too much before realizing they've emptied themselves. They absorb so much of the world's pain that sometimes they forget to check in with their own. And yet, even in their most exhausted state, there's still something unbreakable about them. They may retreat, but they never collapse. They may cry, but they always rise. Because at their core, INFJs are driven by something far greater than ego or ambition. They are driven by meaning, and that meaning gives them the strength to keep showing up, to keep being the friend who listens when no one else does, the colleague who notices when you're not okay, the stranger who smiles at the exact moment you thought no one could see you. Their gestures may be small, but their effects are massive. The INFJ's kindness isn't performative, it's transformative. It doesn't seek credit, it seeks connection. The truth is, most INFJs will never fully be understood, and deep down, they've made peace with that. Because the INFJ isn't here to be understood by the masses. They're here to understand, to build bridges, to whisper hope into broken spaces, to see what's missing and help restore it, piece by piece, without demanding thanks. In times of chaos, it's the INFJ who becomes the calm. They hold steady when others unravel. They see clearly when others are blinded by noise. They hear what no one is saying. And perhaps more importantly, they feel what no one is acknowledging. This emotional intelligence, combined with their ability to strategize, to plan, to see the long arc of things, makes them not just rare, but necessary. There's a reason INFJs often feel like they're from another time, because their values are timeless. They are not impressed by status, wealth, or reputation. They care about character, about heart, about purpose. They see through facades as easily as glass. And once they sense someone is fake, manipulative, or ego-driven, their energy withdraws almost instantly. It's not rudeness. It's energetic self-protection. Yet for those who are genuine, those who are brave enough to meet them in depth, to speak in truths, to sit in silence, and still feel the connection, the INFJ becomes a life-altering presence. A mirror, a guide, a sanctuary. When they love with precision. When they support, they commit. When they choose you, they see all of you, the light, the shadow, the parts you thought were unlovable. And still, they stay. INFJs are often the ones who pour into others long before anyone pours into them. They are the ones who send the encouraging message no one else thought to send. The ones who remember the small details, who read your mood before you say a word. They're the ones who lift people in silence. And when those people rise, most never even realize who helped them. This is why INFJs often feel invisible. They are felt, but not always seen. Their energy supports others so effortlessly that people forget they too need support, that they too get tired, that they too crave softness, understanding, and someone who will sit with them the way they sit with everyone else. And yet, the INFJ does not become bitter. They might close off, yes. They might need time to heal, but their heart never hardens. They cannot help but hope. They cannot help but care. That, perhaps, is their greatest act of courage, to continue loving in a world that has not always loved them back. They are not immune to pain. In fact, INFJs carry some of the deepest scars. They feel everything, from personal heartbreak to collective grief. They cry for people they'll never meet. They feel homesick for a world that doesn't yet exist. And still, they don't give up. Instead, they turn pain into purpose, silence into wisdom, loneliness into insight. They alchemize what would destroy others into depth, into compassion, into a mission to help, heal, and hold space for others who've also been lost. That is why they stand above. Not because they are invincible, but because they are invaluable. Because their soul does not run from the dark. It walks through it, lights a candle, and holds the door open for those still trying to find their way. If you're an INFJ, ensure to check out our INFJ Playbook Toolkit. The link is in the description of this video.